Can you talk to me about fundamentalism?
Sure. So that word, fundamentalism, is a religious term. It's often used in religious contexts to describe religious people. So, you often hear the term Christian fundamentalists, or sometimes people talk about like Islamic fundamentalism or Hindu fundamentalists or something like that. So it's a religious term, that word fundamentalism. Christian fundamentalism has a set of beliefs or ideas or doctrines that might involve a certain reading of scripture, so like a hyper literal, strict literal reading of scripture, a certain reading of Genesis, like a young earth interpretation of Genesis, maybe certain views about eschatology, end times, maybe certain views about women and like what women are supposed to do in the home or something like that. So, I mean, we could maybe spend some time, saying like, okay, this is often the package that comes with Christian fundamentalism, these ideas or these beliefs or teachings. The word fundamentalism, more broadly, the way that I conceive of it, is an adherence to a set of ideas or beliefs or dogmas that go unquestioned. So it's this intense, extreme, this rigid commitment, this rigid embrace of certain beliefs, along with an abandonment or a refusal to use reason or to apply rational analysis to those beliefs or to those ideas.
So you could even see that in politics and secularism, and not just religion.
Right, exactly. So the way of thinking about fundamentalism certainly could apply to Christians. It could apply to religious people. But you could think about like Republican fundamentalists or Democrat fundamentalists, just people who are really ideologically driven, right? This ideologically driven mindset that is very resistant to counter evidence or trying to examine or reflect on these ideas rationally, right? So yeah, I mean, yeah, that opens up fundamentalism to a lot of different areas of life, right? Typically, Christian fundamentalism is associated with conservative Christians, right? These conservative Christian fundamentalists. And I've spent my share of time with conservative Christian fundamentalists, and spent time in those contexts, and have seen a lot of those ideas that I was mentioning earlier. Like you often find certain views about science and the Bible, or views about the place of women, or things like that. But I've spent my share of time with pretty progressive Christians as well, and progressive Christian environments. And often in those places, people are like, oh, like we're not fundamentalist Christians, right? But you still find this adherence, this strong, intense, extreme commitment to certain ideas, certain ideologies that like everyone just must affirm, and they'd go and question, and it's like, oh, you dare not question these things, like we all agree on this, and it's just these given assumptions, right? And it's sort of a anathema to even ask questions about it, or to rationally criticize it or something like that. So that's not a case of, oh, like there's those fundamentalist people, and then like, you know, there's us, like they've got these really intense, strict beliefs. It's like you haven't lost that intense commitment to these beliefs, right? All you've done is just replaced one set of rigid ideas for another set. So it could be, you know, this rigid, intense commitment to still certain views about science, or views about women, or things like that, right? So all I'm trying to say with all this is that fundamentalism can be a religious thing. It can be a conservative religious thing, but it's not exclusive to that. It doesn't necessarily need to be that.
Right.
And that tells me that human beings have a tendency to hold on to our cherished beliefs very tightly.
Yeah.
And we're very resistant to looking at counter evidence for our cherished beliefs, for our essential beliefs. We don't want to expose them to criticism. We don't like to use reason to kind of analyze them on the table and say, like, well, like, could I be wrong about this? Maybe I've missed something. That's not a feature of Christianity, is what I'm saying. That's a human thing, that all of us with our cherished beliefs, we like them. We find certain ones essential, and there are some that we say, like, I'm not even willing to entertain the possibility that this is wrong.
Right. Gives you a lot of security and comfort. Feeling like, oh, this is what I believe, and that's not going to change.
Right. Exactly. Right. So I remember when we were in college, and still today, I hear typically young evangelical Christians talk about, like, oh, I just want to get out of the Christian bubble. I just want to get out of the evangelical bubble, right? Like, I can't wait to get out and experience the real world, and all of that. And I understand, and I can appreciate what they're saying. At the same time, it's very, very difficult to find a place where there's true ideological, ethnic, cultural diversity, right? Where it's very hard to find some place that's not a bubble, is what I'm saying. So again, I think when people say something like, oh, I just can't wait to get out of the evangelical bubble, I think there's maybe some assumption in there, like, oh, you know, Christians are evangelicals. We just, you know, we like our bubbles. And I'm sure that's true, that Christians do tend to gravitate towards other Christians.
Right.
But wherever you go, it's always going to be a majority of people who look a certain way, think a certain way, behave a certain way. That's just normal human behavior. I mean, that's just how humans typically live our lives, right?
Just find a new bubble.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And again, it gets back to that feeling of, you know, we like people who think like us. We want, we like to have our beliefs confirmed, and so again, that's not a Christian exclusively or necessarily this Christian thing, right? Like, oh, look how Christians just get huddled together, and certainly Christians do that. I'm not denying that that's the case, but all I'm saying is that anywhere you go, there's going to be people who are drawn to people who just think like them, and want to just talk with those people.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about deconstruction and deconversion? and Christians who maybe come from fundamental backgrounds and leaving their faith. It seems like that's something that's happening quite a bit today.
Yeah. So there are a number of Christians in the West who are leaving the Christian faith, and many of them, though not all of them, many of them describe in what's called like these deconstruction narratives or deconversion stories. Many of them describe leaving or coming out of fundamentalist backgrounds. Now, I think that's unfortunate, and I think it's unfortunate for a number of reasons. One, I think when Christian fundamentalism says Christianity is this, Christianity is this, Christianity is this, and then someone grows up and then realizes like, oh, I guess I don't believe this, and this. Well, then I guess I'm no longer a Christian.
Yeah.
So I'll walk away. That's unfortunate. So it could be something like, oh, Christianity is young earth creationism. Christianity is women like have to stay in the kitchen or something like that, or something like that, right? And so it's like, well, I guess I no longer believe those things. So I guess I'm no longer a Christian.
Right.
What ends up happening, I think, in those cases is, well, like you're rejecting something that Christianity never has really claimed it even to be, right? You're rejecting something else, and maybe it's even good that you're like, like you hear people talk about like, oh, like I just don't believe that there's this like angry God in the sky who like wants to like judge me, or and it's like, okay, well, good, like that's good for you. Like, I mean, that's never what Christianity has ever claimed, right?
There's a lot of making non-essentials essential.
Right, making non-essential things essential.
Yeah.
Or just completely misrepresenting what Christianity even says altogether, right? And so in rejecting, it's like you think you're rejecting Christianity, but you're not even rejecting Christianity. You're rejecting a certain kind of fundamentalist like flavor, right? So that's one, I think, concern. I think just as serious, if not more serious, is that refusal to engage with criticism, the refusal to look at counter evidence, to explore foreign ideas, to expose yourself to differing philosophies and religions and things like that. So, it could be the case that someone is raised in a like very rigid Christian environment, and then gets to their 20s or 30s or 40s, and then all of a sudden hears all these other ideas, these foreign ideas that they never heard as they grow up, and they feel like they've been duped, they feel like they've been misled, they feel like Christians tricked them or were deceptive or something like that, right? And so there's this mindset of like, well, like they never told me about this, like, well, who knows? Like, what else is wrong? Yeah, like what else is wrong? Like, who's to even say? Or like what else are they not telling me, right? So I think that's really unhealthy, right? To never expose yourself to foreign ideas, or to counter evidence, things like that. So it could be that you've never heard of such ideas, or what might happen is Christians present a differing position in a really inaccurate or uncharitable or sort of way, like a straw man kind of a thing. Like an easy example would be like, views about evolution, like, oh, evolution says, human beings came from monkeys, or things like, oh, like, there's those and just use whatever label you want, like those people out there, you know,
Right.
who think that. And then you grow up into adulthood and you realize like, oh, well, that's not even what evolutionists claim, or that's not even what Buddhists believe, or that's not even what, right?
Yeah.
So again, that can feel like you've been duped. It can feel like it's very disorienting, right? It's to be like, well, you know, like what else did they not tell me about? You know, like what else? Like who's like these people? I trusted these people to tell me all these things, and like, so Christians of all people should speak honestly, right? The Christians of all people should speak honestly about what Christians believe, what we ourselves claim, and be honest about where Christians disagree about things, and say like, yeah, and Christians can disagree about this.
Right.
And Christians should be honest about what other people believe, like people who are not Christian, right? In a way that's charitable and honest, right? Like, you know, we ourselves as Christians like find it really irritating when other people misrepresent what we believe. Like, it's always so frustrating when you hear someone explain Christianity and it's like, well, that's not even what Christianity is, right? It's not even what we believe. So we should extend that kind of grace to others as well. Right. I think what fundamentalism offers is this kind of certainty, right? That's very palatable. Right. Human beings, we like certainty. We like to just know, like, it's either this, it's this, not this, right? There's that great quote, I think it was Francis Bacon, who says, if you begin with certainty, you'll end in doubts. But if you begin with doubts, you'll end up in certainty. And I think that's what fundamentalism offers initially, right? I think the attractiveness of fundamentalism, like what makes it so palatable, especially when you're young, is it presents you with like, here is certainty, right? And, you know, especially with young children, like they want to know, like, well, is it this or this? Just tell me yes or no. Like, what is it? Just tell me what it is, right? And it's nice to be able to say, like, well, the Bible just clearly says this. Right. God clearly says this, right? Yeah.
Gives you security.
It gives you security, right? Yeah. But in reality, there are a whole number of issues where it's really hard to discern, like, you know, this is what seems true, but people also, reasonable, godly people, disagree about this. Right. So if you're looking for certainty in the Christian faith, you won't get it. And that's not to say that, you know, everything is sort of up in the air, or that's, you know, we have to live in this, like, well, this complete skepticism of like, well, who knows what's true? Right. There are certainly Christian essentials, and there are non-negotiables. All I'm trying to advocate for here is the rejection or refusal of reason to examine, analyze, question. Right. Is not doing ourselves any favor, right?
Yeah, you might think that you're doing something good by trying to protect your children or people that you're teaching by just exposing them to a certain number of ideas, or not exposing them to different ways of thinking about things, when actually you could actually be strengthening what they believe by showing them, look, this is what we believe, and here are all these other reasonable ways of looking at this. Right. And I think that gives you so much more security, actually, in what you take away.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think a helpful analogy is to think of yourself as being inoculated, right? Like, if you want to be, you know, at the appropriate time and maturity, you want to expose yourself to foreign ideas, right? I think it's healthy to expose yourself to different foreign beliefs, so that when you get to adulthood, you don't have this like completely weak immune system, right? That you're able to look at these beliefs and you're like, oh, this isn't the first time I've heard this. Like, yeah, I'm familiar with this idea, and think I've spent some time thinking it through, and I can appreciate where it's coming from, but I still think Christianity is true, or something like that.
Yeah, it seems like it takes a lot of humility and grace just to even be able to try and consider, oh, look, this is a really reasonable way of looking at it alternatively.
Right.
And understanding another person's position and
right.
having respect for that even.
Right, exactly. And notice that that's not confined to the domain of Christianity. You often hear in these deconstruction stories, these people who describe like this feeling of being on the outside, this feeling of like, oh, I couldn't bring my questions to the table. Like there were things that you could never talk about or criticize. Like there was this like inner circle, and I was always sort of ostracized, or I was on the outside, and never included because I had these questions or something like that.
Right.
And I can certainly sympathize with that in conservative Christian environments, and I can relate to that. But I've experienced that same sense even in progressive environments, right? That same feeling of like, oh, there's this inner circle, and there are certain core beliefs that like you can't ever talk about, right. You can't ever question, like, and if as soon as you raise some concern or some doubt about it, you're immediately sort of on the outside.
Labeled or something.
You're labeled something or other, right? So again, I mean, the conservative fundamentalist camp is going to say like, oh, we label you like a liberal or something like that, and then the progressive fundamentalist camp is going to like label you a bigot or a racist or something like that, right? So none of that gets us anywhere, right? That way of approaching things. And that kind of attitude that you were describing of like, this is what we think, but there are people who have good reasons for thinking other things. Just you could easily apply that to the realm of politics. I mean, to like lifestyle, and there's lots of different areas of life where this is relevant, right?
Right.
So what I'm just trying to emphasize here is that fundamentalism isn't a conservative Christian thing. Right. It's a human phenomena. I think the phenomena of we hold on to our beliefs very tightly,
right?
Our cherished beliefs very tightly, and we don't want to expose them to criticism. We don't want to expose them to rational analysis, right? It's very hard for us to do that. You'll find that wherever you find human beings, right? So I began this conversation by saying fundamentalism is this religious term, and so that I think that suggests that there's something inescapable about religion itself.
Right. Everybody kind of has a religion of their own in a way.
Exactly. All of us are going to have cherished ultimate beliefs, that we say, like, I live my life by these principles. I live my life by these beliefs. These are the things that are most important. Like, these are things I know that are true beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I would die for these beliefs. And, I never could consider the possibility that they're wrong, right? Those are religious sensibilities that like that intense adherence, commitment to these principles that you live by, that you shape your life around, right? So it's not a matter of like religion or no religion. It's just a matter of like just which religion, right?
Yeah.